right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Capitalize on Retirement. We're kind of doing a little special release episode because SpaceX is not, it's not really an internet provider, a telecommunications company, or it is an internet provider, telecommunications company, defense contractor, logistics, potentially the infrastructure and backbone of future AI and space commerce. So a lot of people think of SpaceX and they just think of the rocket.
Yeah.
And the valuation is coming out at a $2 trillion valuation. So is that brilliant or is that completely insane?
Yeah, I mean, I think a $2 trillion valuation for, any company is a massive number. I mean, there's only so many companies right now in the S&P 500 that actually have a $1 trillion valuation.
Absolutely massive. And there's a ton of talk about it, right? I know we're getting contacted about it. There's a lot of talk about it.
Yeah.
It intrigues all of us just because of what it is.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. I mean, and I think, what we're going to talk about today is kind of what is the future of SpaceX? Like, a lot of people think of just the rockets.
Yep.
Right? And we're launching rockets into space. Well, what does that actually mean? And so we're going to kind of break that down. So, let's just kind of start there. What is SpaceX really? And, most people think just the rockets. But really, it's internet, transportation, telecom, government, and defense. It's future space economy. So there's just so many different routes that they could take. And I think there's so many different ways that this company can succeed.
And that's why it's so intriguing, right? Because it is not just the rockets. It's everything that you just mentioned. It's kind of fascinating what's happening. So let's break it down per each of those. So we're going to break it down by Starlink, which is the internet, the launch services and transportation, the telecom, the government and defense, and then the Starship, which is kind of the moonshot side, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So let's start with Starlink. And let's talk about what Starlink is.
Yeah, so Starlink is basically the internet provider, right? And so if you think about it, Starlink is basically internet from space. So traditionally you have your home, your cable, your internet. Mm-hmm. Well, there's 5 billion internet users worldwide. And so traditional internet requires expensive, cables and infrastructure, and these companies have to come in to a new home development and put all this infrastructure in. So it can cost hundreds of millions of dollars to get this infrastructure in place, whereas Starlink can provide internet from basically anywhere. So Starlink is the satellites are in space. Mm-hmm. You're connecting directly to the satellites, so you don't have all this infrastructure. So the infrastructure is actually in space. Mm-hmm. And no matter where you're at, whether you have a ranch in Montana that doesn't have the internet infrastructure, you could have Starlink and you could essentially connect to the internet from anywhere.
Yeah, you basically just put a satellite on your roof. You pay for Starlink on the monthly subscription and you have internet. And you could, like you said, you could do that anywhere in the world. And that's kind of game changing. And Starlink right now is the actual revenue engine because this is live, this is working. Right. The satellites are in space and it does work. So if you have trouble with internet, you could connect to Starlink. Right. So this is going to help a lot of people in secluded areas. But I also think because of where the satellites are located and the cost of infrastructure, I think it's a little expensive right now because it's kind of niche and it's not being utilized. But as more people flock to this, I actually think that price can come down.
Oh, of course. And think about like having, being in a secluded area in Montana, just to give that as an example. You have no Comcast, no Verizon, no cable companies. Mm-hmm. So you put the Starlink dish outside, you get internet right away. You're able to stream Netflix. You're able to jump on Zoom calls. Mm-hmm. That's a huge benefit for a lot of people in the country and across the world, not just in the U.S.
Oh, it's massive opportunity. And that's kind of where like the SpaceX side comes into play there too, because why are they launching these rockets, which we're going to talk about in a moment, but they're launching these rockets to put satellites up there.
Right.
Like they're not just launching them for fun.
They're building the infrastructure. Yeah.
They're building the infrastructure. Yeah. So that's why that is happening, to build the infrastructure for something like Starlink as well as other things. But I think Starlink's one of the, and that's the one that is producing revenue right now.
Right. That's probably the biggest opportunity in my opinion. And just to kind of go through like potential revenue, this could be, there's 8 billion people on Earth. If
Hmm.
we just have 10 million users paying $100 a month for this service, you're talking about $12 billion of annual revenue a year. 25 million users is $30 billion of annual revenue. And if you have 50 million users, that's $60 billion of annual revenue. So a lot of people are looking at Starlink as this is the company that can provide the infrastructure for cheaper internet or internet from anywhere.
And that brings up a couple questions in my mind, right? So, first question, at what point does SpaceX stop being a space company and become one of the world's largest internet providers?
Yeah. I mean, that's the question. I mean, they're going to, in my opinion, if they can, and they've already done this, but this is going to disrupt a lot of things. And it's a great thing, in my opinion, because the more people that have internet access,
Mm-hmm.
the more education you get from it, the more things. So there's just a lot of benefits from it. And I think people in secluded areas, it's just such a benefit. You don't have to, for internet, how it works now, you don't have to have all this infrastructure here
Mm-hmm.
because the infrastructure is going to be built in space. And now anybody can tap into it versus just like New York City, who has great internet access, but they have all these different, they had to build all the infrastructure there. So now you don't have to build the infrastructure everywhere. You just build it one time in space and everybody taps into it.
Yeah, I mean, you think the last innovation in internet technology was like the fiber optic cables,
Yeah.
right? That made everything better, quicker, faster. Well, this is going to make it even more accessible because we don't have to go worry about hooking the cables. And
Right.
I'm not an IT guy, so I don't necessarily understand that, but I get that there's a satellite out there that can provide us.
Yeah.
The other question I have, and what's that do to these current companies, Verizon and AT&T, and
Yeah.
that do provide internet? Obviously, they have different areas and sections of their business. That's just one.
Yeah.
But I do think Starlink and what they're doing, I mean, that could be massive if everything works, right?
Right.
That's with any
Right.
type of stock position. We all know that.
Right.
But
And with a $2 trillion valuation, I mean, you're basically banking that does work.
you are, yeah, because the revenue is just not there today
Yeah.
to support a $2 trillion valuation. So you're buying future, you're buying for the future. I mean,
Yeah. So let's talk about the next part of business that they have. That's kind of the rocket business. And so, when I look at that, they didn't invent rockets, right? SpaceX didn't invent rockets, but they changed the economics of rockets. So when they launch a rocket into space, like I was looking up numbers from NASA and how much it costs them to launch a rocket into space. It costs like $1.5 to $1.7 billion per rocket that they launch into space. And their rockets are gone. They can't use them anymore.
they can't land them.
Yeah. So the SpaceX Falcon 9, which is their rocket, they can launch a rocket for like $62 to $74 million. And they could land that rocket and reuse it. So you're talking about a 95% decrease in cost. And so what's happening is governments like NASA are using SpaceX to launch rockets into space, do their research. It's just much cheaper. So everybody is saving money from this.
Yeah, I mean, the way that it was done before, think about our commercial airlines, right? So imagine if every Delta flight that you went on,
Yeah.
imagine if they had to basically throw the plane away after every flight.
Not very efficient.
It's not very efficient. So, but that's what we were doing in the past. So
Right.
SpaceX, the rocket side of the business, has totally changed that. It made it 95% cheaper, and they could reuse that rocket.
This is why I like private and public companies more than I like governments. Because if you think about it, they have to figure out the best way and most efficient way. Because if they run out of money, well, the business goes under.
Yep.
And so governments typically don't run out of money. And so, you have NASA who's spending $1.5 billion to do the same thing, and they're exploding their rockets where they can't reuse them. So
Yeah, they were treating the rockets like a disposable camera.
yeah.
where
And just throw them
SpaceX
away when they're done with
just
them.
throw them away when
Yeah.
we're done, where SpaceX is treating them like a commercial airplane. And the reason why that matters is because the cheaper launch, it creates more satellites in space. It creates
Right.
more internet. It creates more military applications. It creates more space commerce, and it creates more scientific missions. So
Yeah.
the rocket isn't the business. The rocket makes all these other
Right.
businesses possible. I think
Right.
that's what most people don't understand. Like,
Absolutely.
we're not doing this just to create a rocket and launch it into space
Right.
because that's cool. There's application to it.
Right. So every satellite company, government, future space business needs access to space. So, I like the analogy. I read this somewhere. It says SpaceX is becoming the FedEx of space, or the UPS of space. And so, they're the ones that are creating the infrastructure for people to get there in a cheap manner, which is really exciting. I think that's why, once again, the value is $2 trillion, because of, you have Starlink, you have these launch services. And, the next one, which is direct to sell. So I think this one really blows my mind, because I see this as a huge opportunity. And so if you think about it, when you have a cell phone, you have to have a cell tower to get access, right? That's what gives us access to have internet and all these different things and have cell service. So if you have just satellites in space and you can connect directly to the satellites, you have service from anywhere. So you don't need cell towers. You don't have any dead zones. You're just connecting directly to the satellite, and you have cell service from anywhere. So I think, with over 5 billion smartphones globally, I think that is a massive opportunity.
It's a massive opportunity, and it's an issue that people deal with every day in our world today. Like, we're all connected, and I'll drive on the highway and I'll hit a dead spot, my phone drops off, and people are frustrated about that. Or certain people's homes have really bad cell service. I mean, we see it all the time. Everybody knows what we're talking about there. Apple has done this. Apple has a feature on your phone where you could connect a satellite now and make like emergency calls, and that's really valuable, right? Because you can make a call anywhere in the world via satellite, but it only applies to, I believe, emergency calls. I'm not a tech guy, but what SpaceX is trying to do is do satellite to cell service, which means you could have good service anywhere in the country.
Right. And the thing is, like, if you think about companies like Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile, like, you're buying their infrastructure. So you're basically saying, I'm going to pay for Verizon service because they've built this infrastructure. They've spent hundreds of billions of dollars on building the infrastructure so that we get cell service. But if the infrastructure is built in space, which is likely to happen if they can do what they want, what they're saying they're going to do, you're going to connect right to the satellite. What's that going to do to AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile? It's just a more efficient way of doing things. So you're talking about a $2 trillion valuation. Well, if that happens, I mean, they may take a lot of wallet share from a lot of these companies.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, if they pull this off, they're not just competing with the satellite companies. I mean, they're competing with cell phone infrastructure itself, like you said, because I mean, you said this perfectly. When you pick Verizon over AT&T, you're price shopping, but you're also picking their infrastructure and where you're going to have better service. If the service is national, and I know it's up there.
It could be global. I mean, even
global,
Even think about, like, when you go to a different country, you have to buy a different plan, an international plan. Well, you don't have to do that anymore because you're just connected from anywhere.
You're connected from anywhere. I mean, that's a massive, massive thing. And we keep talking about the $2 trillion valuation. I think it's important for people to understand two major things about that. We'll probably say this 10 times, but the $2 trillion valuation isn't justified based on, the earnings or anything like that right now. It's just not. People are taking bets on what is to come in the future, because if they could pull this off, that valuation could be a lot higher than $2 trillion.
Massive. I mean, and the thing is, I don't know if they're going to want to get into cell phones, right? I don't know if they're going to want to compete with Apple. They're just providing the infrastructure, but you never know. I mean, Apple's I think a $3 trillion company now. I mean, if they said, hey, we can do it better, I mean, Elon's done that with a lot of things. Who knows? They're going to have the infrastructure in place, if they create their own cell phones, who knows? So
Yep.
I just think the opportunities are endless, but he's creating the actual infrastructure so that everybody else can tap into it.
Yep. And that's just three areas. So we talked about, we got Starlink, we got the rockets, which the rockets build on all the other infrastructure, and then we kind of have the cell business. The other part of this is government and defense.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think SpaceX, they work with a lot of different government agencies, but I think this could be huge long term. It's recurring. A lot of people love those government contracts because they're predictable, and it's hard to replace once they're kind of tied into the government, and some of the things that they're looking to do. So, I mean, think about being in another country and not having, let's say you're in our military and you're running a certain operation. Well, if you don't have any service and you can't get a hold of, you know, so there's just a lot of different applications there, in my opinion. Not to go into too much of the detail, but I think there's a lot of application there where people are going to get service from anywhere, and that would help, governments. That would help anybody.
Well, it simplifies it. Like there's a lot of satellite phones and things like that now, but they're working with NASA, Department of Defense, military intelligence
Yeah,
agencies. But if they could place satellites more efficiently at a cheaper cost than the
yeah,
government can, well, the government's gonna shop that contract out.
yeah,
At the end of the day, it saves money. So it's just another way for them to create revenue. And everybody loves a government contracts. We've seen that with Palantir.
yeah,
We've seen it with Lockheed Martin over the years, right? Um,
yeah, yeah. And I mean, governments don't just buy rockets; they buy the infrastructure. And
mhm,
once again, that's kind of what he's building with all this. So, I think their revenue right now is like $20 billion, somewhere
mhm.
in that range. So it doesn't justify that $2 trillion valuation, but if he's able to pull off all these different things, I mean, you could see some of the benefits that would come from it. So
Yeah. And then the last piece of this is Starship. And Starship is kind of the moonshot one, right? Like
yeah,
this is you're really valuing a business that doesn't exist
yeah,
is what you're doing. So when you think of moonshot, you're thinking of things that have a long shot that provide major value to us, to all citizens of the world, essentially. But these are things that are pretty far out there that
yeah,
probably only Elon would actually look to
yeah.
try to accomplish. You want to talk about what some of those things are?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a long shot, like you said, and this one's probably a little more long term than some of the other ones. But I mean, you're talking about space tourism, you're talking about space manufacturing, deep space logistics, Mars missions. So these are all things that are far out there,
Hmm.
but that's his vision. And I
Yep.
mean, you can't argue with his vision. So you kind of said it's hard to value it. I love this analogy. It says, imagine trying to value Amazon before online shopping existed, right? It's just you can't value it. There's no value unless you have that vision that Elon has, and that's why I think some people are just making the bet on him and saying eventually I do see that this valuation makes sense.
Well, I think that's kind of the difference when most people hear of SpaceX. I think they think of two things, in my opinion. I think one, everybody goes to the rockets.
Yeah,
And then I think that they think this is just going to be like a space tourism company,
right.
right? But it's not. There's a lot more to this than just space
Oh yeah,
tourism. Like there's the moonshot side,
right.
there's the rocket side, but there's also some extremely valuable infrastructure and potential on what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, it could be just to kind of look at what can it be? I mean, why are people excited about SpaceX? Investors believe SpaceX could become a global internet provider.
Hmm.
It could become a global telecom network, space transportation. I mean, there's just so many different things. Major defense contractor, future AI infrastructure provider, and the backbone of space economy. I mean, all of those things in one company, it's crazy. But I just think the bull case is it's so much more efficient.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he's saying, why put cell towers here on Earth and have all this infrastructure, you have all this money spent, whereas you could just build the infrastructure in space one time and that's it.
Oh, said it best. It's way more efficient to do it that way. I think it's coming quicker for most people than we realize. Like, this is
Yeah.
going to happen. We're
Yeah.
running out of infrastructure here. Our grid's going to have a tough time supporting a lot of this,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't know that that's not my arena, but we have to think of something else. So when it goes into space,
Yeah.
it's out there, and if we could tap into it, I mean, it's a massive opportunity. Let's hit the valuation here, and then we'll kind of tie this up. So the potential valuation, 1.75 to $2 trillion. The current revenue is around 18 to 19 billion, call it 20 billion. So investors are essentially paying close to $100 for every dollar of current revenue. So you truly and absolutely are buying into the future by buying this IPO.
I mean, to pay 100 times, I mean, just looking at that from a value standpoint, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Right. So, but if you're looking at it from what can this actually be, but to be honest, with all of the opportunity, I could see this as a huge opportunity. And now I would like for the dust to kind of settle a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought.
Because I think this is going to be crazy when it IPOs. There's going to be a lot of people wanting to get in it. A lot of retail investors could get hurt if they get in and the stock price goes down 50, 75%. But in the future, if you're looking over a 10-year period, I mean, I'd be curious to see where it's at 10 years from now. I think it could be potentially a lot higher than it is now, but it could also hurt a lot of people if it doesn't work out. So you got to be careful.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, Apple has 400 billion of revenue and they're valued pretty close to the same, right? Like, that's a huge difference. So, I think people have to understand that. I totally agree with you. I think this company could be absolutely massive, but when? When does that happen?
Right.
Because eventually, you're going to get people who buy this because of Elon. You're going to get people who buy this because of the future. But right off the IPO, I'm curious to see what happens on that.
Yeah.
We have no idea what the stock's going to do.
Right.
But I don't know if that valuation will hold for too long. I mean, listen, I have no idea. We don't know what these stocks are going to do. But I know you are paying $100 for every dollar of revenue.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
Yeah, if you're just looking at it from a value standpoint based on the revenue today, it's not there.
No, it's not.
But if you're looking at it based on what the future holds and what could be possible, I mean, there's a lot of things that still need to go right. I mean, I was looking at when would it make sense to actually have a $2 trillion valuation. I mean, like 4 of the 5 companies that are within SpaceX, they all have to really do well. Like 80% of the companies have to actually succeed.
And they can.
Right, and they absolutely can. So, but if one of them or 2 of them or even 3 of them don't do as well, I mean, that $2 trillion valuation looks pretty high.
It does, and I think the companies have the ability to succeed, right? They have the idea is there.
Yeah.
But can they do it?
Yeah,
It's
can they
not
execute?
the easiest thing to execute. Nobody's
Right.
ever done it before. Like, now, nobody ever created the iPhone before the iPhone was here, and that worked out pretty well. So we don't know what that's going to be.
Yeah.
But great opportunity.
Yeah, definitely a great opportunity. I think, a lot of people were talking about SpaceX. That's why we wanted to do this podcast. But I think just to kind of close it out, I think the main point of emphasis that we want to focus on is when you buy SpaceX, you're not buying a rocket company. That's not just what it is, right? You're buying an internet provider, a telecom company, a defense contractor, a logistics company. I mean, there's all kind of applications to this. So I think there's huge opportunity here, and I think it could potentially make everybody's lives that much better.
No, I think that's the main thing. I mean, if these things happen, I think they make our lives better. I think they make the future of our country and our society and our world better. But they are going to be tough to do it. And I know there's a ton of resources behind here. Also, if the company does get a $2 trillion valuation cap, and there's going to be some money pouring in here on this IPO that they're going to have to, they're going to put it to work.
I mean, money's going to be exchanging hands, and that's why we always tell the families that we work with, you got to be cautious, right?
Yeah.
Because, everybody wants to get in it. And usually when everybody's talking about it, everybody wants to be in it. Most of the time you'll get people that put money in, it goes way up, but then it comes way down. And a lot of retail investors are the ones that actually get hurt. So we're going to be watching it. Eventually, We'll see if it'll be in our portfolio. There's a lot to see before we do that, but I'm excited about it.
No, I am too. I'm really excited to see what the IPO releases at, how it holds over the next month once it's released, and just to kind of see what happens, get some data on it, right? Because
Yeah.
we're going from private to public, so
Yeah.
that'll be interesting.
Definitely. If we love doing these podcasts. If you guys like them, please like it, share it with a friend, and we will see you guys in a couple weeks.